Hey guys, good morning. It's January 26th, 2022, and on today's FlossTube, I have tons of stuff for you. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Be Mine Stitch Along. I'm going to show some brand new Lori Holt stitch cards stitched up. I'm going to talk about some of my whip progress, and I'm going to give tips on working with Morgan hoops. And I have lots of what's new to show you. So so excited you joined me. So honored that you guys watch. Again, I'm Kimberly from Fat Quarter Shop. We're going to just jump right in. And I think the first thing we'll talk about is Lori Holt's brand new stitch cards. So her stitch cards are a set of 4 patterns, and we come out with one set every quarter. So we're on stitch card K now, and each stitch card set has 4 patterns. So I'm going to show you this one, and these are all stitched up now, so it's going to be fun to show you. So like I said, each stitch card comes with 4 sets. So we're already from A all the way to K, and then they're individually numbered within. So this one is 41, 42, 43, and 44. And they're all themed a little bit differently, but the insides are all 24 by 24. So you could interchange the borders within the stitch cards and the insides within the stitch cards. And of course, you could stitch them with or without the borders also. So these are stitch card set K, and all of the stitch cards are written for using DMC floss. And they're just simple patterns. They can be as easy as you want them to be and as hard as you want them to be, because you could stitch these on 10 count vintage cloth and get them to be really big, or you could stitch them all the way on 36 count and make them look a little bit harder. Now these samples right here were stitched on Shadow 25 count Lugana by Lori, and it's slightly gray. And I will tell you with Shadow, depending on the floss you use, so this is how it comes packaged, but depending on the floss you use, sometimes I think this shows up whiter and sometimes it shows up grayer. So that's an interesting thing that Denise and I have noticed when we're stitching on this, is depending on the floss you use will kind of change this color since it's so light. And Denise stitched these, and Lori finished them into little pillows. Lori Holt's YouTube channel has a video called Cute Little Cross Stitch Pillows Tutorial, and it shows you how to make these pillows. Now, I was kind of thinking, you know, my kids are much older, but if they were little, you could stitch them in one piece and do 4 like this, or you could stitch them in one piece and stitch them horizontally, or you could stitch them in one piece and stitch them vertically. And you can do that with all of the stitch cards, but that's a fun thing you could do to make a little banner for your kids' bedrooms or grandson, granddaughter's bedrooms. So if there's a spot on the wall that's like vertical, or a spot on the wall that's horizontal, or a spot on the wall that's square, you can always make your cross stitch fit that. So anytime you're looking at cross stitch, especially the stitch cards, just kind of think outside the box a little bit on that, and you can make things really fit your home instead of just stitching them all individually. And I really like the color of this fabric with the floss. The back of the pillows, on this one, she just hand sewed them closed. In her video, she does have a tip on how you can cover this up with wool, safety pins, and buttons. But on this one, since it is more kid-friendly, she didn't think she needed to do that. So all the information is in her video called Cute Little Cross Stitch Pillows, and it's a really cute video. And it's one of those videos that if I was making the pillows, I would just watch the video as I was making it. Since I'm not great at making pillows, I would probably just start and stop the video and follow it as I go. So now I'm going to talk about the Be Mine Stitch Along. And so the Be Mine Stitch Along for 2022 starts next week. So February 1st is Tuesday, next Tuesday. So we're going to start next Tuesday, and I want you to join us. And we started this, I think, a year or two ago. And if you watched last week's video, I showed you everything that I'm going to be stitching for the Be Mine Stitch Along. But now I thought it would be really cool to show you some stuff I've stitched, and Denise has stitched, and Cheryl has stitched in the last couple of years, so that if you didn't like my choices last week, you can kind of look at inspiration. And also, on February 3rd, next Thursday, we're going to release a really cute Valentine's Day cross-stitch finish haul on this channel, and it's going to show all of the Valentine's cross stitches that I've stitched over the last 3 years. And in that video, you're going to see a good variety of designers, a good variety of fabric, and a good variety of floss. And all the information will be posted in that video, so it makes it super easy for you to click on the description box and see what is in that video. And it's going to be super fun just to kind of see what kind of like all of the work that we've put in over the last couple of years, like how it kind of all comes together. So here are some more design inspirations for Be Mine in addition to last week's. This is called Just My Type. It's designed by It's So Emma. I stitched this pattern in 2020. It's all things Valentine's Day tied up into a heart. And I, of course, wanted this designed in my favorite colors, which are pink and aqua. This was the first time I used the Color and Cotton brand floss. And this is Graceful Gray 14 count Ada. It's by Witchell. And I had it professionally framed. And when I had it framed, I did put glass so you can see the glass. A lot of people don't put glass on their frames, but on this one I decided to. Most of the time I do put glass, or maybe pretty much all the time I use glass if I'm going to get it framed. It just makes it easier because I store all of my things kind of back to back, and it makes it less likely to get messed up. So that one was on gray. So we thought we would show you one that looks totally different designer, totally different fabric. This is one of my favorite series that I've stitched. It is the Trucking Along series by Priscilla and Chelsea of Stitching with the Housewives. So this is the February one. I stitched it in 2021. I didn't change any of the colors, but what I did do is it is written to, it's got a little thing right there. I'm gonna have to fix that right there. I have a little thing right there. I have to fix that. So it's written where it's two separate patterns, but with this series, I decided to go ahead and stitch it as one set on all of mine. And I can't wait to display this one. This is just a little board from Hobby Lobby, and any information on any of the items finished by Priscilla can be found on her blog, which is priscillas2000.blogspot.com. This is her Priscilla's Pretty Plaid Fabrics. This is 14 count chalkboard black. And of course I used all the classic color works. And like I said, it's see how it's written for two patterns with a bow in the inside. And so on hers, she finished it in two separate sticky boards, and I just did mine in one, and it looks good. So love this one. Now that I've shown you gray and black, I'm going to show you lamb's wool fabric. So this is lamb's wool 14 count. And I stitched this February Cottage of the Month by Country Cottage Needleworks before I started Stitch Mania in 2019. So that was 3 years ago. At the time, I hadn't tried any kind of fancy floss. So on this one, I just used the DMC threads that were called for in the pattern. This is 14 count lamb's wool. And then there are some frames that we sell when we can get them in stock by Family Tree Frame Company. And I just used the frame that was listed in the pattern. And I did add glass. So you can see my thumbprints on there. It's so funny. And this one, I try to leave this one out in the same spot in my house so I can just switch it out since I've done all 12 of them. This next one Denise stitched, and this pattern is called Love Whirligig by Heart and Hand. She stitched it last year, and she used, for the fabric, she used Oatmeal 14 count vintage cloth by Lori Holt. She used the DMC colors listed on the pattern. This is just a simple, inexpensive paddle from Hobby Lobby, and we have a video on our channel by Priscilla and Chelsea that is called How to Finish Cross Stitch in a Circle. And so Denise finished it, and she used that same fabric that I just showed you of Priscilla's Pretty Checks. She used the Cayenne or the Riley Red, one of the two vintage trims by Lori. And she just finished it in a circle. And so if she can do it, you can do it. We're all beginners here. We kind of just all started, and it looks awesome. So this was from last year. This next one I'm very excited about. Now, I haven't stitched it yet. I'm going to be stitching along with you guys. So every year at Fat Quarter Shop, we raise money for several charities. We also donate to charities that we don't even publicize. But I did want to say this year we're trying to raise $100,000 for Make-A-Wish. And this one will be coming out as a completely free pattern in February 2022. It's going to be completely free. I'm going to be stitching along with you. It's going to come out in different segments. And here is the pattern requirements, which are listed on our blog. And I'll be stitching this with you. So this is a great one for the Be Mine Stitch Along. But you can just start it in the Be Mine Stitch Along, but then finish it when we finish out in a couple of months. And I do know the very first part we're stitching will be the border. And that'll be a first for me since I haven't stitched the border all at once before. So that's going to be totally different. And I did want to show you a pop-up that I have of the stitch cards from Lori, and this is how she would suggest if you didn't display them the way I was talking about with one piece in your kid's room or granddaughter's room. You could put like a little rope and some little clothespins, and you could display it that way. So that was kind of her vision of displaying the pillows. And then our last inspiration is Candy Hearts. And we don't have the sample anymore since, I don't know what we did with it. But this is a Candy Heart DMC thread pack. And with it comes this free chart. It's only available with the DMC. It's actually available as a PDF also separately. But if you get the thread pack, you can only get the thread pack with the pattern. And the reason and we have different colors, yellow, green, blue, purple, pink, you can see all DMC. And the reason I'm showing this is that I saw this cute little image on Kimberly's Stitch Squad. And Lynette Smith posted this over the weekend, and she took the free pattern from our site right here. She stitched the purple, the yellow, and let's see, that must be the green. And then she got some heart fabric. And then she added, it's so cute. I love this. I totally want to make it. So if you have any questions for her on this, go to the January 23rd post on Kimberly's Stitch Squad. But I thought this was so cute, and I would love to make that. I don't even know where the fabric, I don't know what fabric that is. I don't know anything about it, but I just know that I love it. So that is Be Mine. So now we're going to move on to whips. So the very first whip that I wanted to talk about is Fall on the Farm. This is the one where I'm going to be stitching 2 hours a week. And I just set a timer and then start and stop. So on this one, what I decided to do, this is what I showed you last week, which was chart 1. Now I did leave all of the text back stitching off, and I will do all of that at the very end of the series so they don't get mixed up. So anything that you see left off, I will add at the end. But of course, if you see any cross stitches that I leave off, please tell me, because I do make mistakes from time to time and I love to know that. So what I decided to do is, when I got part 2, this border right here is the same border thread as here. And you can tell by the photos on Little House Needleworks website and her videos. So I had a lot of fun stitching this, and I kind of had it like the number across memorized. I kind of had the rhythm memorized. So I thought, you know what? And I looked at my clock and it said an hour. And I thought, well, you know, instead of starting the inside, let me just go ahead and do the outside. So what I'm going to do this week is I'm going to probably start, I'm not sure if I'll start at the bottom or the top, maybe the bottom, and move up. So I'll stitch for 2 hours. But what will happen is, if I run out of time in the month before part 3 comes out, I will start stitching the other borders. So I'm kind of thinking, with my 2 hours a week within, that I will eventually have all the borders done, so that by the time the 9th one comes out, I just have to fill in. So I'm kind of curious if any of you guys have started my little method of 2 hours a week. It kind of really spreads it out, and it makes it really nice where you don't get tired of a project, because you're just giving it a little bit of love each week. So I'm very excited. Now I will tell you, my favorite part of stitching this will be the house. I love to stitch houses, and I think the reason I love it is because you can outline and then fill in. And I, of course, learned that from Priscilla, because I used to not outline, and that was a lot of counting. And it'll be nice to have something that I can fill in. Now, these down here, these are chickens, and the little black piece you see is a French knot. So because they're French knots, I will do those at the very end of the series. So in my bag, I'm going to keep all my patterns, and then when I get everything done, I'll go through and see what I didn't do. So this back stitch on the wagon wheel, I did do that, but I kind of felt like that wouldn't get messed up. And anything else, I don't think I added, but I'll just read on the back. She has a note of exactly all the extra stitches, and then I'll do them, I guess, room by room or house by house. So that is Fall on the Farm. And this one, what I do, and when I put it in my bag, you'll see it's I kind of roll it up like this. And that's how I store it. And then I try to I don't really roll where the needle is. This is kind of how I put it in my bag. And this one is stitched on 16 count Beautiful Beige by Witchell. And it's going to finish about 12 1/4 by 12 1/4 with all of the pieces. So that's going to be awesome. So that is my second whip. My next whip I'm very proud of and have a lot to say about it. So I'm going to show the front. So this is the front. I'm going to show the back. So you can see I did travel a lot here, but what I did do is I did the tree all first and then added the fill-in so that all these pieces behind it, the color wouldn't move to the front. So on this one, I wanted to talk kind of in detail about this one. First, I want you guys to start typing in how many hours you think it took me. And I'm going to read those comments as we go. I'm going to see who gets closest, because this took me forever. So I'm going to talk, this is my first time ever using linen, ever. So the fabric this is on is called Belfast Raw Silver 32 count. This is now back in stock. So we got a couple of bolts. We cut it all up. I would get it while you can, because if it sells out, I don't know when we can get more. So this is back in stock. If you're going to piece it as one piece, you only need one fabric. If you're going to stitch all of these rooms individually, you need 2 of these. But I am excited that this came in before February, because we were expecting it in February and it came a couple of days before. So y'all are saying 65, 12, 32, 14, 18, 15, 20. Y'all are all over the place. 24 hours. 22, 16. Oh my gosh. Okay. So we're gonna zoom in and I'm gonna talk a little bit about my experience working with this. Now I did talk about it a little bit last week because I worked on this with Glitter Village. I can't remember. I think I started Glitter Village before Nutcracker Village. But on this one, if you want my tips on working with linen, check out last week's video. This week's video, I wanted to talk more about the direction and the order I stitch in. And then I wanted to talk about hoops. So what I did on this one is working with linen is so much harder for me because I'm just not used to counting like to get from here to here or from here to here as it would be with linen. So I decided on this one, the safest thing to do would be to do the white. Stitch all of the white because then I have a base and I know I've stitched all the way from one side to the other, and if I go up here or up here, I'm in the same spot because I've got a solid base. So I did that, then I added the gifts, and then I did one full tree at a time, and then another full tree a different day. I did the snowflakes kind of as I went. Then I added the text. I love stitching text, so that was fun. Then I added the people, and then I added this. So I kind of started with, I guess, more of a base. And on this one, the needles that I used, I think I used a 26 Pat Carson. And I bought a lot of those before they were discontinued, and I'll try to find an alternative later, but for now, I still have a stash of Pat Carson. On this Nutcracker Village, I didn't change any of the colors. I'm making it exactly like Diane designed it. It is a series that has how many pieces? I think it's 11. 11 pieces. So the center is bigger. Okay, so three more things. The first thing is these little people, the Nutcracker, what's her name? Clara, and then the little Nutcracker boy, they have eyes. But I'm going to do the eyes last because I don't want the French knots to get messed up. Oh, I guess he's the Nutcracker. I don't know his name. I should know. I watch my daughter in this every year, and I don't even know. So, okay, we're going to zoom back out, and I'm going to talk about the way this is laid out. So if you go to Country Cottage Needleworks website and you go to the Nutcracker Village section, you will see that it's part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5, and so on and so forth. So this is part 1. This right here is 118 wide. So this should be 118. So I kind of had the same concern that you guys did. So if you look at part 2, it goes right here. And part 3 goes right here. So I got a lot of questions of how do you go from this room to this room? And I didn't know. So I'm going to play it safe. Part 3 is right here. Diane suggests skipping 2 stitches across the top and no stitches horizontally. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to stitch this bottom snow. And then I'm going to count to make sure this is 59. Then I'm going to count to make sure if I go 59 more, this will fit. I'm going to have the snow here. Once I have that base and I know that it's perfectly centered. Oh, sorry, this is Nikki, not Diane. Once I know that I've got this snow in the right spot and that it's exactly where it needs to be, then I'm going to do this one by going right to left for the snow and then going to the top. So that's how I'm going to approach it. I was just a little too scared to just go from here to here. I'm just not as experienced. And on the linen, what I do is I use a light. I'm trying to think of the name of it. Halo Go. I use a Halo Go light if I'm at work, and if I'm at home, I have a little magnifier called Daylight Magnifier Omega 3.0, something like that. And I do look with a magnifier. There's no way I could do this without a magnifier. I am making mine all one piece. And the other thing that I was going to say was, yeah, I'm doing it one piece, not changing the colors. I have been using Morgan hoops. And I'm going to show you how I use them. I've been using the 5-inch. And so they just snap out. This one's new. It hasn't been used yet. So what I do is I just put it wherever I'm at. So if I go up to do part 2, what I'm going to do is just move it. Probably put it right here. This one hasn't been used, so it's a little bit tight, and then I'll screw it in. Now, when I'm done stitching, I take it out of the hoop. I'm not going to leave it in the hoop, but I like it to be nice and taut. Then I'm going to roll this up with a wonder clip, put a wonder clip here so that I can just hold it like this. Now, I have found that this Morgan hoop is great. It holds it nice and taut, and when I pull it off, my stitches are not messed up. But I did find that because I'm right-handed, I'm stitching over here. So this needs to be on the left, because a couple times I had this on the right and my thread was getting stuck over here or over here. So because I'm right-handed, I put this over here and then I just move it as I go. So then after I get a little bit done, and then over here, I'll just move it as I go. And this, and then see how it's like, this one didn't go on as taut, it's a little bit looser. What you can do is like pull it a little bit to get it taut, screw it in a little bit, pull it a little bit, screw it a little bit. That's kind of what I do. So if you have any questions on working with this, just pop them in the comments. But I think really working with fabric and hoops and needles and fabric, and a lot of it is personal preference. So let me know if you have any questions. But yeah, I am going to be doing this as one piece, and then when I put it back in my bag, I just leave it like this. Now, this is the size that I used to start, and this is what Cheryl suggested for me so that I could kind of get used to it. Now that I've got used to it, she said, now you can move on to this. This is the 7-inch. And she said, you know, to try it. I think it's a little too big for this project, so I'm probably not going to use it all the time, but I might use it some of the time. So, just try it and see. I think my preference is going to be the 5-inch, but I think they're not that expensive. And what I'm doing is putting one in each bag, the Nutcracker Village and the Glitter Village, because sometimes I leave the project at work, sometimes I leave the project at home. But if I wasn't doing this as a job and leaving my bags all over the place, you just need one. You don't need two. I only use two because I have a crazy life. So I'm so happy to say that the fabric is back in stock. And this one, this is kind of how I just put it back in my bag, just like this. Okay, so we have a new video release that we released yesterday. I'm very curious about what you think of it, if it's something you think we should do going forward. So on January 25th, which was yesterday, we released a new video called Get Ready With Me cross stitch for the Barn Sweet Barn stitch along. And in the video, I show you how to get ready for the project from all the beginning of writing it in my journal, all the way to putting the skeins on the Farm Fresh egg floss drops by Lori. And I do want to let you know that I got all that ready. And next Tuesday, we're going to have Stitchy Talk, and that's where we just sit, chat, and I'm going to be this time focusing on 10 count vintage cloth and different tips on stitching with that and how to get your stitches to lie nice and flat, since that fabric is pretty chunky. It's a little bit harder and you're using more thread. Sometimes it can be a little tricky. So that's going to be exciting. Now I'm going to answer a couple questions and we have an announcement. So don't leave because we have a really big, well, for me, it's a pretty big announcement. So Wilma Evans asks, when you pull on the fabric, will it distort the stitches? It hasn't for me yet, but of course, I'm very new at this, working with linen, but for me, it's been fine. Cheryl does not grit her fabric. And she doesn't use a light or anything. She has great eyesight. She might use a light, but she does not use a magnifier. I gotta get that right, yes. I think she uses a light, but no magnifier, even on the linen and the 36 and 40 count. Okay, Wilma is asking if on the Little House project, if the border on the top right is different color than the others. Yes, so I'm gonna show you that real quick. And then someone else is asking me if the border is different on the second one. So I hope not. So we're gonna kind of look at it together. Oh, I did the border wrong. I did. Well, we're going to leave it the way I have it. So I just assumed, oh wow. I just assumed that this one, I knew what color this was. So I assumed it was the same border and it's not. So I just did this. I'm not pulling that out. I'm leaving it. So I stitched the border totally wrong, but that's okay. That'll make it unique. But what I was trying to do was just get ahead. So I totally stitched the border wrong, but that's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch the border like this on all of them. I don't think I'm going to pull that out because if I pull that out, I think I'll have a mess. Oh yeah, that's a big mistake. Oh well, that's what I get for trying to do 2 hours a week. There are 3 different colors used in the border. So there's this color. I think this one was Wagon Wheel, and then the next one is, I think Muddy Puddle. I can't remember exactly, but, so, ooh, that's a big mistake. So I guess you guys can comment, let me know if you think I should rip that out. I don't know what I'm going to do now. I don't think I'm going to rip that. I think I'm going to leave it. I guess I'll call Lori. Lori always gives me advice. I think I'm going to leave it. And just, I guess it'll be harder for me to figure out where I'm stitching from, though. But that was me trying to get ahead, knowing that it was Wagon Wheel, and I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. Ooh, big mistake. I'm glad somebody told me. See, that's why I would do floss tubes, just so y'all can help me. So the next question is, how will I be displaying Barn Sweet Barn? Will I keep them out or change them out each month? So I plan to display those at work, and I just plan to display them just throughout the building in different rooms. So like maybe a conference room, maybe my room, maybe Kevin's office. I'm just going to display them around Fat Quarter Shop. I mean, I might take one home, but I'm not going to interchange them each month just because I'm planning to display them at work since I think it's a quilt block. It is very representative of our company and I think people will really like it. Pam Ward asks, on 20 count, you suggested 1 strand. Is that over 1 or 2 holes? 1. And then Sheila says, I'm using 16 count Aida, Bowen 26 needle. They look like a lump. The X is not defined using 2 strands. Can you show an up close picture of 16? Yes, this is 16. Isn't it? Hold on, let me see. I think it is. Yeah, this is 16 count. Yeah, so this is 16 count beautiful beige. So I guess this is how the stitches definitely, I'll put a 14 count next to it and you can kind of see how the stitches look, but they definitely fill the hole more. This one will be harder to see just because it is in glass. I cannot believe I made that mistake. Y'all, I'm horrified. Okay, so you can see there's a little bit more space here on the 14 count than the 16. So it's just the 16 count. You have to pull your stitches a little tighter. And if you don't like working with 16 count, you can always just put it on 14 count. And a huge thank you to Valeria Bauer for the super chat. She always gives me super chat. She's always here, so thank you so much. So next, okay, what I wanted to announce to you guys is something that a lot of people behind the scenes have been working on, which would mean I didn't do any part of this. So thank you to Denise, Matt, Kevin, everybody who worked on it behind the scenes. We came out with the cross stitch calculator. So one of the things that we really do at Fat Quarter Shop is the company was built on customer service. And I always want my customers to be able to find what they need at our site. And one of the questions over and over in the live stream is, what size fabric do I cut? Or what size fabric do I buy? So what we decided to do was make a cross stitch calculator because we get that question so much. So you'll go to Fat Quarter Shop and you can either go to the very bottom of the page and it says cross stitch calculator, or you can click Control F and just type cross stitch calculator and it'll show you where to click. The third way to find it, the easiest, is at the very top. There's a cross stitch banner. Then you go to the bottom left, which would be this way, and at very bottom says cross stitch calculator. So we're going to click there. And what you do is you put your stitch count in. So you put your width and height. Well, we're going to do it on a free pattern so you can see. So right here, what you'll do is you'll type in 123 by 127. And then underneath it, you pick what fabric you're using. So Aida is listed on the left and linen even weave is on the right. We're suggesting 14 count. So we're going to select 14 count. And then there's a box for border. How much do you want extra on the outside? Some people like to have 1 inch. Some people like to have 3 inch. I usually go with 2, 2.5. That's usually what me and Denise cut. So let's select 2 inches all the way around. And then you hit calculate and it tells you that your finished size is 8 7/8 by 9 1/8, which matches the pattern. It tells me cut my fabric 12 7/8 by 13 1/8. It tells you the suggested needle and the number of strands to use. Now, this is just a suggestion and it is basically what we do here. So I think it's going to be great addition to your shopping experience. It's completely free, but it is a great way. That also answers the other question, how many strands do you use? What needle do you use? So you can always just cheat and go there and just, you know, if you just want to know what needle to use, you could just put in random stitch sizes because you don't really need that, and then just type 14 count, and then at the bottom it'll tell you the needle that you should use. Now, of course, that is subjective because some people use different needles. I sometimes use a different needle than Cheryl, so it's just, you know, a suggestion, a place to start with. And Gwen, I stitched 22 hours on Nutcracker Village. That was so hard. I am going to try to figure out a way to be more efficient with the linen because I cannot do the sewing method. So if anybody has any tips for me on how to go faster on the Belfast linen, I would love to read your comments because I am so slow and it's driving me crazy. So that's a couple of days stitching. I mean, that's more than a whole weekend. So now that I've shown you all the fun stuff, I'm going to show you some new stuff that we've got. So we finally, oh my gosh, long last, Glitter Village. If you want to make the Glitter Village just like me, we did this beautiful thread pack, and it does come with the metallic thread, and that's what I'm using. So now we have a thread pack. It matches the Nikki's threads from Country Cottage, and this right here is based on what is on Country Cottage Needleworks website. If you used a different fabric, like a 14 count versus 16, you might run out of one of them. But this is just Nikki's suggestion. We have we have 3 new Stitching with the Housewives. Snowed in Love is, they got some requests because they have done some other snow globes. So this is a snow globe for Valentine's Day, and they did mention that they're going to do a couple more for different seasons. This is a PDF Dapper Doodad. There will be one more Valentine Dapper Doodad this Friday. This is the fourth in their Valentine's Tiered Tray Tidbit. It's cookies and coffee. And then within it, there's a free pattern that says February 14th, and it has a border. It's rectangular, and it's really cute. It's mostly fonts, so really cute. We also have these. Now, these will probably be in my rotation for 2022, Be Mine. Oh, 2023. We're in 2022 now. Sorry. The other day I was really driving a couple nights ago, and I was like, I'm not sure what year it is. And a funny story is one of my sons, he said, the other day he asked me, is it rude to ask how tall a woman is? And Kevin and I kind of looked at him, and we were like, well, we don't think so. And he said, okay, Mom, how tall are you? And then like a couple of days later, he said, Mom, is it rude to ask you how old is it rude to ask a woman how old they are? And I said, well, probably. And he said, well, but can I ask you? And I said, sure. And he said, how old are you? And I had to sit there and do the math. And I think I'm 47, and I think I'm turning 48 next month, but I honestly don't know. I was just like, I told him, I said, well, you just get to a certain age, and it just didn't matter anymore. You're just old. I'm just over 40. Let's just call it that. But he's so funny. So these four are brand new. They just came in this week by Primrose Cottage Stitchers. They're so cute. So we have these as a paper pattern, and I will have to add these to my rotation for 2023. And then I'm going to end with any kind of questions you guys have or anything you want to chat about. Now, of course, if you want to like chit chat, we can chit chat next Tuesday also. And next Tuesday I can answer any kind of questions. I do see a true crime question that I'm going to answer though. I would be interested in seeing Kimberly try a cross-stitch standard, hearing her critique. Cross-stitch standard. Maybe a cross-stitch stand? Mm-hmm. Okay, I am going to be searching for one at Needlework Market to see if I can find one. I need a primer on different cross-stitch fabric and brands. Too many terms. Where can I get that information? We have a video that will be coming out later this year called All About Fabric. For now, if you're a beginner, just start with 14 count Aida and just start there. And if you're going to move on from Aida, I would try an even weave, like 25 count even weave. Then you could kind of move to a linen, which is not even and much harder to use. Peggy says, thank you to Kimberly for restarting my cross-stitch journey. I always used Aida, and I'm considering Lugana. Which background texture would I recommend? I would start with 25 count Lori's brand, 25 count Lugana by Lori, and I would just pick maybe Prim, not Prim. Prim is darker. What's the one that's right under Prim? Oatmeal, right? Yeah, I would do Oatmeal 25 count. How are Morgan hoops different from the old wooden hoops with screws? I actually don't know. They're just they're a little bit plasticier, but I'm not sure how they differ on that. Okay, Teresa's asking me a true crime question, so I'm going to answer it. I watched the Chandler Halderson trial. Is there a good podcast or YouTube about it? So I watched Pretty Lies and Alibis on YouTube, and they covered kind of the rundown each day of it. I'm sure there will be movies and TVs. I don't have a podcast on it. But I will say that when you look at the Chandler Halderson case, it really shows that the wheels of justice can be swift. And it's interesting to look at the fact that that trial, he was convicted within 1 year of his crime. And there are so many others that are just sitting out there, and the wheels of justice just turn because they have a lot of money and they're able to beat the system. So that's one thing that does bother me about, one of the things about true crime that I think some of you think is weird. I'm not interested in the crime per se as much as the psychology behind it, the why, the advocacy that can be done for victims, and looking at the difference of if you have a good lawyer. If you don't have a good lawyer, what happens? So yeah, I'll just stop with that. Okay. Colleen said she loved the new video, wished you would have shown how to load the needle with 4 strands. That's a great point. I'm going to be doing that next February 1st. And February 1st is actually Kevin and I's 19th wedding anniversary. So I'm going to load him up with a box of, or 2 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. And then I'll have to find something else because I do that every year and it's kind of getting boring. But guys, thanks for watching. I've had so much fun with you guys today, and I'll see you next week. Bye.